Welcome to Scaling Your Healthy Food Product podcast, where we believe the process of scaling better for you product doesn't have to be lonely, hard, or complicated, but following simple steps to prepare your product to scale correctly will set you up to succeed. If that is you, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Jacinta Kimboy. Let's get started, everybody. Some of the costs that you'll have to incur if you don't pay attention to your product being profitable in the beginning is this week we're starting a series of the E.T.S method. Last episode talked about introduce the E.T.S method. This is a simple framework to scale your product with confidence. I wanted to focus on the first one. So the first one is like E, that's evaluate your product. And this is what works, what doesn't, in terms of where does your product stand. And these are the four main ones. So the market readiness, margin, scalability, and shelf life. I want us to look at reasons why a product can fail. Of the three steps in the E.T.S method, this one is the most important one because recently I read a story of a founder who talked about them closing their business. And one of the reasons why they stated closing their business was they jumped into the entrepreneurship and they didn't really do the research as they would have ought to do in the beginning. And one of the things that really put them under too was they mentioned the R&D, like the hefty price that comes with the R&D. So this just reinforces the fact that I really want you to be profitable from the beginning because some of the costs that you'll have to incur if you don't pay attention to your product being profitable in the beginning is retailers will need, a distributor will need a cut, a retailer will need a cut. So the distributor can need up to 35% and the retailer will need like 25%. And if you're in a retail store, you also need to do promotions, and all those promotions have everything to do with the business. The retailer is not going to incur any of the costs that you would need to incur. So if a product goes on promotion and it's like $1 off, it's your dollar off. It's from your profit. It's not from the retailer's 25% or 35% of the margin that they're asking from your product being on their store shelves. So this is why this step of all the steps is important. And I wanted us to talk about, and this is mainly from experience and what I've seen and what the businesses and the founders that I've worked with. So these are the four ones, and these are the reasons why you need to look at this. So the market readiness, this is the first one, and aka research. Like you do research in terms of trying to figure out what works for your product. What is the consumer looking to have? And the good news is, as a better for you category, most people now, the consumers want better for you products. Post COVID, most consumers are looking for better for you products because everybody wants something that is good and beneficial, myself included. As a consumer, that's what I'm looking for when I go to the store. That's what I'm looking for. So market research is important because yes, they're looking for a better for you product, but where is your product positioned? Like, where is your product going to be positioned, or even part in what category is your product going to be listed in the store, for example? So you have to look at that and you have to really do your research. And this is why I love farmers markets. This is why I talk a lot, and I encourage a lot of food founders that are just starting out, even the ones that are already in the game, to always go back like to farmers markets and see what's working in your product and what's not. And that's another thing, like even when you're about to launch like another SKU, like try it out. You have to do like consumer research. And these ones are some of the ways that you can easily do it for consumer research. So market readiness is very important. And this is why research can help you and can save you a ton of work, because this is the thing. You could get traction and you could get a retailer to be interested in your product. But if you haven't done the research yourself, and you can jump in, you will jump in, right? You will jump in and get your product ready and do everything that you need to do. But if this piece was missing, you will discover as you move along that you should have done this. Like because that's another thing. It's not just about putting your product on the shelf, it's also about getting your product off the shelf. So the market readiness, this one is very important, and that's why we all need to take some time to be able to do this and to do it properly. The second one is margin. So this is profitability, making money. That's why we go into business. Yes, we want people to have better for you products, options of better for you products that they can purchase. But the other thing too is we also want to be able to make money so we're profitable and we can be around for longer. We can give them better, more options, more SKUs, because we do have the bandwidth, we do have the gasoline to be able to keep that going. So margins are very important, because if let's say you don't put this into perspective in the beginning, you start out, let's say you start out with like a 40% margin of your product, like you have 40% margin, then, and this is before you even factor in the distributors, before you factor in the retailers, and before you factor in even a category manager, that like some of the people that you will need along the way, the marketing. If you don't factor in those aspects of the business, as you progress and as you grow, your margin gets slimmer and slimmer and slimmer and slimmer, and it becomes unbearable for you to continue with the business and to continue with your product. So important to be able to look at everything in the beginning. If you need to do some ingredient swaps, and of course these are ingredients that are better for you, that's where you need to be able to do. So evaluating is key, because you want to make sure that you're profitable. You want to make sure that you have a healthy enough margin that if down the road raw materials get expensive, and they do get more costly as things progresses, tariffs will come into play, different transportation, logistics, so they will get costly as you progress. So if you need to make sure you have a healthier margin to begin with before you can proceed. The third one, this is scalability. This is what I like. This is where I like, and this is where I want you to think about, like, your recipe. These are the things that you need to consider: your ingredients, the process, which is one of the things that most people could miss, in terms of, especially when you're coming to scaling, because you're maybe moving, most of the times you're moving from like a small facility, and now you're going to a larger facility, and larger means high volumes, more raw materials. So margin of error is very slim in those cases if you didn't make sure that your processing was well transitioned. If the transitioning is not well looked at, it's not well planned, it's not well managed, you will see the cost of you scaling up going higher. So this is where the plant trials are very important. And there's an episode on plant trials, so please go and listen to that one. Improving supplying of the swapping of raw materials, as I mentioned, and then also the process too can include you purchasing an equipment. Like, let's say if your product is innovative, and in the facility that you're working at, or even in your facility, if you're self manufacturing, if you don't have that equipment, then you need to be able to purchase it. It's okay, you need to be able to purchase it, but you need to think about all the ways that you can incorporate it in a better way. And this is where I come in. This is where you can talk to like a process engineer to be able to help you, and a food scientist like myself can help you think through those steps to be able to see what's missing, what do you need, and how can you efficiently and effectively incorporate and start producing this product in large scale, taking into consideration the product itself, and how it is, and the functionality and the quality too, because you want to be able to replicate the quality of your product. You want your product to be the same. You want everything to do with your product, and everything that the consumer is used to your product or knows your product to be is transitioned during the scaling part. So this is why scalability is important. You need to really look at that. You need to bring in people that can help you. If you don't have the food science background, bring us in so we can help you think through this process. Because in some ways you can think about it's expensive. You could say it's expensive to bring somebody in, but either you pay now or you pay later. Paying now is actually much, much cost effective than paying later, because some of these services that we offer, they are R&D credited. The government can give you money back if you're able to document all those things properly to be able to use it in your, because you're improving your process, and you're paying taxes as a business. So that's why the government wants to support you in that. But if you don't document it properly, it'll be hard for your tax person or whoever does your taxes to be able to have you get that back. Take taxes as sales tax. So it's pretty much the same. If you don't counter that, if you don't factor that in the beginning, it's hard to go back retroactively and figure that out. So, but we can help you that. I can help you with that if that's something that you're looking at. And then shelf life. This is a huge one. Like, in order for you to sell and to be on the shelves, your product needs to have a certain amount of shelf life, certain months of shelf life, 6, 9, 12, even longer. The longer it is on the shelf, the better for you. The better for you, you have an opportunity to make money for longer. But then there's also the spin of things. For us in the better for you category, we're looking for better for you ingredients that are not detrimental. We don't want anything that is not natural, could even be organic. We don't want the additives that are associated with side effects. So we don't want those to be in our products. So this is where you really need to look at what works for your product, and the quality too. This is where quality also comes in. I talked a little bit about it in the scalability of the product, but also in shelf life itself. This is where it plays a big part, because if your product is not able to stay fresh for a certain time, or some qualities in your product, let's say it has oil, and coconut oil or avocado oil even, and it goes rancid in certain conditions, especially now in the summer. Some of those attributes you get to see a lot more that get affected. And if you don't even have like a good packaging, this is where packaging also comes in for the shelf life, because it could affect the shelf life of your product, the freshness of your product, because the product itself or the packaging itself lets in moisture. And the moisture, if let's say your product is like crunchy, and if it's in a high humid environment, then it's going to lose its crispiness. And if your product, let's say like chips, for example, if your product is, people buy it for the crunchiness, just to be able to enjoy those attributes as they're crunching in their mouth, then you will lose those attributes, and it's not going to be pleasant for your consumer. So those are some of the things that you need to look at. I wanted you to listen to the reasons why you need to do this. And this is one of the most important steps of the E.T.S method that I teach, that I help food founders to be able to scale their product with confidence, with ease, and profitability, because that's huge. It's huge. More so now, every now and then I hear a story of a food founder that had to stop production, that had to even close their business because of some of the things that they did not do in the beginning. And when I look at where in the process it is, it's usually the evaluating of the product. This part was not done right. So I want you to do this right. I'm here to make sure that your product stays on the shelves longer. You're here for longer, and more people can get to enjoy your product. So I'm cheering you on. If you have any questions, let me know. I also have a quiz that can help you figure out where you are when it comes to evaluating your product. So I'm going to add it to the show notes. So until next week, keep scaling your food business. If you're finding this podcast helpful, leave me a review. This is a way of me knowing how it's impacting you and impacting your business, because that's why I'm here. I'm cheering you on to do better, and having the mission of helping food founders to be able to get their products out in the market, to help the upcoming generation. By you leaving us a review, we're going to get in front of more food founders like yourself. Until next week, keep scaling your food business.